Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, brought to you by the Draft Professor. The Draft Professor is a group of podcasters bringing you daily draft podcasts and is home to the only dynamic mock draft simulator which allows fans to mock draft against other fans. The Draft Professor Simulator features a first-round challenge, 5 unique one-round drafts. The Draft Professor Simulator features a second-round challenge, 10 unique 2-round drafts. All mock drafts are always picking against the fans and draft analysts which use the simulator. Every mock, every pick, every time. The Draft Professor also features ranked players functionality, where you can rank your favorite players at every position. Optionally, you can add tiers to your rankings to show what round you have the players graded in. The Draft Professor also features Draft a Team functionality, which allows users to snake draft a team of 22 players to demonstrate your my guys, compare player strengths, and discuss draft prospects in a way no other mock draft simulator can. Thank you for tuning in to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. This episode will begin shortly.
All right, everybody, how we doing today? My name is Randall Sliver. We are talking about the Combine as we are getting into the thick of things. We had a great Thursday and Friday. Interviews were great. How we doing today, Anthony? How we doing, Brian?
Good.
Doing good. Can't complain. Always love watching the Combine. Watching grown men run really fast is a highlight of my week this time of year.
In tight shorts, too.
In tight shorts, yeah.
Yeah. And we had a 32-round GM mock draft, and you can already tell people are drafting based on Raz. So it's everybody's jacked up. So that's good times. Let's get through it before we start talking about the Combine. If anybody, whoever is watching, if you can like and subscribe to Draft Professor and all of us. I'm at Randall Slifer, at Anthony_Russo97, at B Mafi NFL. But let's get into some Combine. We'll just jump right into the funnest story of the Combine, which is Nick Emenwary. Who would like to kick off Emenwary? Anthony?
Yeah, I'll start on Emenwary. I mean, I don't think, Emenwary and a couple other guys we'll probably talk about. I don't think it's necessarily shocking, the kind of athleticism that we saw. He's always been a genetic freak. But you can't help but be impressed by what you saw from a 6'3", 220-pound guy, runs a 4.40, vertical and broad jump just off the charts. Definitely, I'm seeing a lot of Obi Melifonwu comps, who some of you may remember was another Combine warrior at the safety position. But yeah, Emenwary is a guy that I think was getting. It seemed like he was getting mostly like top 50 talks. There's definitely people who had him first round in the first round conversations before this week. But definitely like top 50 felt like the general closer to consensus after this performance. And again, I don't want to. Nobody's going to be shocked by this, but I think people are going to now see this athleticism on display and be more enticed to put him in first round conversation. I still have questions about just his overall cover ability. But there's no denying that in terms of just pure athleticism, Emenwary is a guy you want on your team.
Yeah, Brian, with Emenwary, where do you think right now is his ceiling and where is his floor in terms of draft prospect, and with his size and athleticism, where do you think he would fit, and what do you think teams would be looking at him if he gave a Combine?
Floor probably somewhere at worst, probably somewhere at the top of the second round or something like that. Ceiling, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, it depends on what teams think of him because, again, he's the super athletic freak. I mean, we all kind of knew it was going to happen. He was going to test really well, but his, how do I put it? Like you see some of it on film, but you don't see all of it. Like Of course, he didn't do the agilities, and for me on the film, that's something I did notice wasn't great on the film, at least. But so it just really depends on what teams think of him, because to me, he's going to be probably more of a box safety, play some nickel backer, probably play some slot, cover tight end, stuff like that. He's not really going to be a post, safety like playing in like a Ed Reed type of thing. But yeah, like I said, it just depends on what teams think of him. But I think like probably highest, probably like top 15-ish.
Yeah,
like 15
I think
around maybe. I don't.
Yeah, I think that athleticism people are going to be intrigued by for sure. And it's just, a lot of people are putting him in that safety one. Do you think, like with Malachi, he had a great combine, obviously, but then Emenworry overlooked it. Do you think people are going to jump Malachi Starks? And some people have Xavier Watts. Is he going to go in that safety one role, or do you think he'll stay in that safety 2, safety 3?
I think Starks is still safety 1. I mean, his combine was okay, it wasn't great, but like it's you look at the film. It's like with Cam Kinchins, he had a terrible combine, but his film was great, and he got drafted in like the 3rd round, and he was pretty good for the Rams. So, and Starks is better. So, I mean, I still think Starks is safety 1, and then probably Emenworry is probably safety 2, with Watts slotting in at 3.
Perfect. Think about the same thing, Anthony.
Yeah, I love Xavier Watts, so I would still have him as safety 2. But I think it's I think they're the clear-cut top 3 at this point at the safety position. And I think a lot of people also, people love to invoke Derwin James with Emenworry, and I just don't think I think Derwin James was even more of a complete safety than Emenworry is at this point. So again, that's why I'm still a little hesitant to put him as like a solid, first round guy. And yeah, Starks had like Brian said, combine was fine. Wasn't bad, but it wasn't, knock your socks off either. So yeah, I still think Starks is safety 1. If all 3 of them, if Starks, Watts, and Emenworry all wound up in round 1, I wouldn't be too surprised by that, other than the fact just safeties in general, I feel like get devalued.
Yeah, no, agreed. And Starks' rep that he had where he was going back and forth and ran to that corner and covered that ground to catch that ball in the combine was basically showing what he was in the film for the past 3 years over at Georgia, and it was super impressive. Let's move on now to one of Anthony's favorites. We're going to talk about another one. I guess his Raz got a little bit overtaken by Emenworry, but Shamar Stewart's. Let's talk about his combine. Anthony,
yeah, I mean, we could do a whole podcast on Shamar Stewart if we really wanted to, or at least I could. But yeah, I mean, look, again, he's another one. You can't really sit here and be like, wow, I can't believe Shamar Stewart did this. This was pretty expected. Funny enough, he actually, during his combine interview, I heard him say 4.5, high 4.5 was his that was his bar. That was he was disappointed with a high 4.5. He was hoping to get to a 4, closer to 4.4, which would have been just utterly ridiculous. But even a high 4.5, by all means, is a fantastic time. Again, great vert, great broad jump. The 267 is interesting to me. It's obviously he was 281 at the Senior Bowl. He was listed at 290 all year, which obviously teams fudge those numbers a bit, but still. But the fact that even losing 14 pounds, from Senior Bowl to now, kind of tells me. Obviously, players lose weight to run better. That's part of it. But I do think I would expect 267 to be closer to his play weight than the 281. If I had to guess at this point, my guess is he plays in the NFL around 270, maybe 275. But I do think this is a concerted effort by Shamar Stewart and his team or whatever, to kind of show no, I am a true 4-3 defensive end. I want to come off the edge. I want to play in a wider set on the line of scrimmage. You know, a lot of his reps at Texas A&M were, you know, very like 4-eye, very like 5 tech. He wants to be like, you know, 7 and 9, right? So like, let him just burst off the edge, use his speed to power, and just explode into offensive tackles. And I think that'll really help him at the next level and help boost his, you know, sack and tackle for loss production, which people love to use as a knock on him. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it does come down to he's so athletic that when people are weary about drafting him for production and traits and things along those lines because it wasn't there, you can use him in a different way, in a different system to generate that production. As you can see, you can't teach his size, his traits, his speed, and stuff like that. So just get him in the system and have your defensive line coach kind of make him work. And Brian, do you agree with that?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I still have some slight concerns with the production just because, like, I understand and I totally get it what Anthony's saying, and I agree as far as the way Texas A&M use them. It seems like it's been a thing how Texas A&M has ran their defense for a number of years, where they have these freak athletic guys and they're just telling them, okay, here, 2 gap and sit there and read and wait and don't like attack. And so like their counting stats are like way down. And so it doesn't seem like they develop their pass rushers very well either. But still, like, even with how freaky of an athlete he is, like, I feel like he still should produce a little bit more, you know, like if he had like, you know, if he had like, let's say, 5 sacks this season, maybe 3 or 4 the year before, whatever, like it'd be like, okay, like I get it. And yes, there is the flashes, of course, on film of him making plays in the backfield and stuff like that. So I still have a slight worry about it, that he might not be one of the guys that can finish. Like Rashawn Gary, for example, he's had issues finishing in the NFL. But still, like, you know, again, like Anthony said, he's like this freak athlete dude who, you know, I mean, if you put him in the right defense, he's probably going to take off, like, so to speak, like, at least, especially compared to his Texas A&M numbers. I mean, you know, you're probably going to get at least, you know, 7-8 sacks out of him a year at the very least, you know, but if he hits his potential, he could be a 15 sack, 16 sack a season type of guy.
No, definitely. I love that. And then maybe one more person we can talk about in the past couple of days, and then maybe we'll talk about some risers and fallers. And I would like to maybe find him real quick, is Jihad Campbell, because, you know, there's a lot of Stark and conversation about where he is going to end up, how he's going to play, but there's no denying that he hit 22.62 miles per hour on his 40, and it was super impressive. So what did you think coming out of the combine for Jihad Campbell, Anthony?
Yeah, Jihad Campbell, I think, kind of confirmed to pretty much everybody, and I think this was already the consensus belief, but like kind of confirmed he's linebacker 1. And he's linebacker 1 by like a pretty healthy margin. Obviously, there's the Jalen Walker, what is he conversation that I guess could change that opinion for some people. But Jihad Campbell's like pretty clearly like pure off-ball linebacker number 1. Now, the questions are popping up. Is he an edge? You saw there's a clip online of him like staying after he did all the linebacker drills and tests and whatnot, and then like I guess stayed after the drills to then do like edge drills. He did the hoop drill or the bag drill, I mean. So he definitely, I think, and this is what I thought going into the combine, I think he is a linebacker first that gives you edge. You know, he in certain like third downs he can play as a rusher. Certain situations he can play as a pass rusher. I don't think edge is his primary spot in the league. I think he is a linebacker, and maybe part of it is I just want to have a really good linebacker in this draft to love and to keep as a linebacker instead of converting. But but Jihad Campbell did a great job testing wise, which was expected. Very athletic player. I think he's really the only linebacker in this draft that truly I would trust in pretty much any situation. I think he can play well against the run. I think he can cover well. I think he can, like I said, he has that edge rush, upside. that he gives you. So I think he just is pretty much can do everything. I had him as like 11 on my board coming into the combine. I don't expect him to like rise that drastically. Like if anything, he would go to like 9 or 10. But I think he's a hell of a football player. And I keep saying in 5 years, if you tell me Jahad Campbell's the best player in this class, I wouldn't be like totally stunned by that.
Yeah, I agree. He looked smooth on that field for sure. Brian, how did you feel?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same thing as Anthony's saying. I think his measurements and stuff like that show you, the way he came in and all that kind of show you he's set on being a linebacker. 235. He was listed by Alabama at like 245, I think, or 244, something like that. So, that's probably was about what he played at, give or take. So he probably dropped weight just to run faster, of course. But I mean, yeah, he's still, to me, he's a true linebacker. Of course, arm length isn't great for an edge rusher either. So I think, yeah, he's a true linebacker, who you can throw out there at third downs occasionally, have him rush the passer. I'm trying to think of a good example of a guy who would remind me. I can't think of him specifically, but yeah, he's, he looked really good in the drills. Like Anthony said, especially in those pass cover drills when he's turning and flipping his hips, he looked really smooth, athletic. So, I mean, yeah, some people have compared him from Fred Warner. I think they're kind of different players, somewhat different skill sets, but yeah, I think he could be that type of level of player, a linebacker. But yeah, I think he's just going to be he's going to be linebacker one.
Yeah, agreed. All right, and then other notable combine numbers that I saw, I just kind of went through some. Obviously, Emenwari's 40 was 4.38. I believe that was 12 in all time for safeties. The closest person to him was Josh Barrett in 2008, 6'2", 223, ran a 4.35. I'm sure that Emenwari, if he dropped 5 pounds, he probably run a 4.35. So that was insane to see. Georgia's Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, he was 15th on the defensive tackle all-time list for his 3-cone at 7.38, which was impressive. Defensive tackle Ty Robinson from Nebraska, he was 15th all-time in the 40. He ran a 4.38, which is insane, I believe. No, I have that wrong. I'll look that up.
It can't be 4.38. No.
Yeah, I'll look that up. Landon Jackson, 5th for defensive end in 40 at 40.5 inches. Shamar Stewart was 8th for defensive time at 40 inches. And then Shamar Stewart's was 5th all-time in defensive ends for broad jump at 10'11". So those were all notable that I noticed. Now on to maybe some bad. Anthony, did you see anybody that did not perform as well that may have hurt it, or you just need to reevaluate the tape?
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned him briefly. I think Jalen Walker's measurables weren't great, and it kind of makes me question more than I've had him as an edge, mainly because I think that's been his best. That was his best football, was when he was just attacking the backfield, attacking the quarterback, and just running forward and going after it. But if I'm not mistaken, I think he only weighed like 230 something. The arm length wasn't particularly great either, from what I remember. I don't have the numbers in front of me. You'll pull them up. But Jalen Walker, like I'm not. I still believe. I think he is best as an edge, but it does make me wonder now if he's going to be able to do that consistently. For 3 downs and 4 quarters. So I still like him a lot. I still think he's a first round talent. But knowing that, I don't think the linebacker side of his game is as strong to fall back on. So if you don't believe that he's going to be able to last as an edge rusher consistently in the NFL, you're going to slide him down your board. And he may fall to, 20s and even maybe 30s out of the first round. So Jalen Walker, I don't think he had the measurements that were ideal. And that does give me a little bit of pause for his game going forward.
For sure. And Brian, what are your thoughts on that? And then did you see any fallers, unfortunately?
Yeah. My thoughts on it was I kind of already had Jalen Walker as a linebacker, so it doesn't his measurables don't really move the needle for me either way. I was kind of expecting him to come in around that size, 6'1", 243, so at 32-inch arms. So I mean, that's kind of, I think, again, he's kind of what he's going to probably do what kind of what he did at Georgia and then NFL. He's going to play linebacker and he's going to rush the passer sometimes on third downs and stuff like that. He still needs to develop. Obviously, he still needs more work, but I think that's what he's going to be. So yeah, it doesn't really surprise me or anything like that. But who fell is, it was just, I think, overall kind of the tight end group. Obviously, we know Gunnar Helm did not work out that great. Of course, we knew he wasn't going to be a great athlete, but that 4.93 officially.
Yeah,
that was not good. I mean, nobody was expecting him to run a 4.5 or anything like that, but still, that's not good. And overall, his overall workout was not great. And then, of course, Fannin Jr., again, kind of somewhat similar. We weren't expecting him to run like, 4.3 or anything like that, but still, again, his numbers weren't great. Who else? I think Gadsden didn't run great. I mean, he ran okay, but not great. But for a smaller guy, you think, or a thinner guy, you'd rather him run faster. Even as on the kind of later board end, the guy kind of surprised had a really bad workout was Bryson Nesbitt from North Carolina. He was a tight end, but he had times he was playing wide receiver for them. And he ran, actually, I have it right here real quick. He ran, where'd it go? Like a 4.8 something. Where'd it go? Oh, 4.92. Sorry, no, 4.88. Sorry, 4.88. And that's pretty bad for a small tight end like him because he came in at 6'5", 238. And he's not a very good blocker or anything like that. So, that was fast. But yeah, that was actually surprising, even though he was looking like a day 3 guy anyway. Yeah, I think those workouts drop him out of the draft and make him a UDFA. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. And then Sebastian Castro, kind of somewhat similar to the tight ends. Like, nobody was expecting him to work out great. But again, worked out not as good as you would like. His 40 was a 4.59, so not great. Some of his other workouts weren't great either. There he goes. Explosive drills were not great either. Again, another guy, we weren't expecting him to run, 4.4 or anything like that, but still, I think it kind of hurts him a little bit.
Definitely agree. All right. Well, yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of talking about droppers or anything. We're all rooting for all these kids to get drafted, sort of thing. So let's, we're about 22 minutes in. We're only going to keep this about 40 minutes. So we got a big day today. We got quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. The cream of the crop sitting on Saturday. Brian, are you looking at anybody in particular in that QB class today?
Not really. I mean, most of the top guys aren't throwing anyway. So, right. Trying to think. No, I mean, nothing in particular. I mean, as quarterbacks throwing to guys they've never thrown to for the most part. So of course there can be misses and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't take too much away from the quarterbacks passing drills and the combine and stuff. I mean, yeah, sometimes it's nice to see comparing the arm strength and stuff like that, but even still, it's not really.
I feel that. Anthony, how about you?
Yeah, quarterbacks will be interesting, I guess is the word for it. If there is truth to the idea that Jackson Dart or Milroe or Shuck or any of these other guys actually could leapfrog Shedeur Sanders as QB2, which I don't know if there is, but if that exists, this would be the day to do it. I would probably expect Jalen Milroe to put on a good show. The athleticism is his calling card, the big arm too. So, if ever there was a day where Jalen Milroe could do something to make the argument that he's quarterback 2 or at least a top 100 player, this is probably the day. So that'll be fun to watch. And listen, and there's a lot of quarterbacks, they're going to go day 3, but can kind of show what they can bring to an NFL roster. We've seen plenty of day 3 quarterbacks, in recent years that are, contributors, and Brock Purdy's the ultimate example of that. But there are guys working out today, the Will Howards of the world, and the Dylan Gabriels of the world, and Kyle McCords, they can do something today to sort of solidify themselves as a guy that you take in the 4th or 5th round, maybe have them compete for the backup job. And who knows, maybe they get their turn as a starter down the road.
Right. Especially in an average class. I mean, there's going to be there could be a lot of 3rd round, 4th round quarterbacks taken. You'd be fighting for the first one taken, which is probably kind of premium in an average draft class. So that's super interesting. Taylor Algeresma, he'll be thrown today. He's 6'6", can throw the ball 70, 75 yards. Senior Bowl was not fantastic, but at least he can show off that maybe he's a ball of clay. 6'6" Josh Allen. How can you turn him into Josh Allen, even though that's failed a million amount of times? Wide receivers. What are we looking at for wide receivers today? This is a big one. Who's going to run the fastest 40? Brian, if you
does anyone think Isaiah Bond is running a 4.1? Because I don't, but
he does. He thinks
does.
It.
I guess that's something. But I guess I can just say about Isaiah Bond quick. He had a very disappointing year. Obviously, I think a lot of people, who I at one time saw Isaiah Bond as a guy that could go in the 1st round. There was a point this season where between the athleticism and the way he was playing, that I was ready to make the case that Isaiah Bond could be a 1st round guy. That quickly dissipated. And now I would say early day 3 is where I'd be targeting him. If he has a great combine, I don't think it's going to it's not going to erase the bad play that we saw this year. But it could certainly, if he runs a 4.1, he will go in the top 100. He has to. There's no way he doesn't. You can't be that fast and not get drafted at least considerably high. So in that sense, this is probably a big day for him to salvage any draft stock he has left.
Yeah, for sure. I think if he goes 4.1, he's probably going to go in the 1st. Somebody's going to do it. Brian, what do you think?
He'll probably be a Bengal.
Yeah. They've lived that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Brian, who else you see in the wide receivers?
There's a number of guys. I think, like Anthony said, Bond, of course. But there's also guys like Daquan Felton, although I don't know if he'll be one of the top guys, 4.2 guys or 4.3 guys or anything like that. But I think for his size, he'll run pretty well. Ty Felton should run pretty fast. Jimmy Horn from Colorado will run pretty fast. And I think LaJohntay Wester probably might run pretty fast. So a couple semi-lesser known name guys could put up pretty good times. Besides the guys we kind of know, like Tez Johnson is going to run fast. Who else? There was a couple other guys. There's a few guys. I mean, Arian Smith will probably run pretty fast.
Yeah.
He'll drop a bunch of balls, but he'll run fast.
Yeah. Same with Daquan Felton, right? Spark Scouting thinks that Arian Smith's going to run the fastest 40 and he'll get in the 4.1s. So I've held that receipt for today. So I can't wait to run into Bill and see what he runs. But, and then, a lot of people that you've also talked about, Daquan Felton, Isaiah Bond, what's going to be really important for them as well as the gauntlet. Isaiah Bond's lasting memory was that playoff double clutch when he jumped sort of thing. Can you run that gauntlet well and efficiently to make NFL teams relook at the tape and see if you're worth a flyer to get back into that top 100, to be honest? Same as Daquan Felton, so many drops. How do you respond on that gauntlet and stuff like that? But is there any other drills that you guys are looking at, verts or anything for wide receivers?
I think the gauntlet is a big one for me. And by the way, too, I'll mention Mason Taylor ran a hell of a gauntlet yesterday. That was awesome. I think the gauntlet, and I have no data on how it correlates to the league, so I could just be talking out of my you-know-what here, but it does feel like the gauntlet is a drill that actually can showcase what a wide receiver can be at the next level, in terms of being able to, pluck the ball out of the air, use your hands instead of your body to catch the ball, being able to run at full speed while also tracking the ball. There's a lot of things that a receiver has to do to do well in that drill that I think also correlates to being a good receiver in the NFL. The gauntlet for me is a big one, especially for the wide receivers that we're going to see today.
Yeah, and even adding to that on the gauntlet is if they're able to run like when they're running down, like stay on a straight line and not weave. Like that shows the guys who can be crisp route runners if they can stay in a straight line while they're doing it and not like weave and bobble and all over the place across the line. Because you sometimes see guys that go like this, they'll go like this, and it's just like
100%, absolutely. And then for the last group in the running backs, anybody interested in any running back doing all the drills today? And what are you looking for? Obviously, there's so much parity after Ash and Janty from 2 to 30 that obviously athletic testing on these running backs could solidify people in certain different rounds. And what are you guys looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I think running backs are, it's such a deep class that everybody's evaluations of these running backs are just all over the place in terms of, some guys are top 50, some guys are, day 3, but you're going to find contributors all over the place. Just a couple of guys that I think we saw Cam Scadabough's not competing, right? I think that I read that. I think that's a mistake, and I don't know who else is not testing in the running back group besides JT, which is he's RB1, so he'd do whatever he want. But
yeah,
but no, for a guy like Scadaboo, like I was kind of taken aback that he didn't want to test, and I understand you don't want to test and like not test well because that only hurts you. But in a class where again it's so clustered and there's so many running backs jockeying for only so many places to be on an NFL team, I would take any opportunity to try to separate yourself and make the most of it. So I think that was a mistake by Scadaboo. Jordan James is a guy that I think has gotten a lot of buzz, and other people have been more excited about him than I've been. But I am interested to see how he tests. He's a guy that I've kind of had on my maybe I need to reevaluate, radar of sorts. So I'm excited to watch him today as well.
Brian, how about you?
Yeah. So kind of like what he said, there's a lot of guys and all kind of clustered together, but not even just that. Like there's just so many good running backs. There's a lot of guys I want to see how they test on just different things depending on their skill sets and their athleticism that I'm curious to see. Like for example, Jaden Blue is expected to run pretty fast, so that'll be interesting to see his 40 time. But like I'm interested to see Taj Brooks. I'm interested to see his agility drills because on film he looks like he has pretty quick feet. Not great speed, but pretty quick feet on film at least. So I'm curious to see if he does agility drills and how he does in those. Also interested to see Ollie Gordon because he was listed by Oklahoma State at 215 and showed up at the Senior Bowl at 233. So it's like, whoa. So I'm curious to see how he runs it at that size. Travion Henderson, just curious to see how fast he runs because he's fast on film and how explosive he looks. And then curious to see Caleb Johnson, how he does. Another interesting one I want to see is Judkins because there's an over under out there of him running a 4.45, which I'm interested to see if he hits that. I'm like, I don't know if I see that on film. I mean, I see explosiveness on film, but I'm not sure I see 4.45 speed. But
yeah,
interested to see if he does that. Also interested to see Damian Martinez in run because in the summer I had official weights from him. He was 241 in the summer, and he's 220-ish now, 225, something like that. So I'm curious to see how he runs and jumps and all that stuff. Kyle Monungai, I'm interested to see how he works out because we know he's not super athletic, but I'm curious to see how good or bad of an athlete he is. Devin Neal, he's put on a bunch of weight in the last couple of years. So I'm interested to see how he works out. And then also a couple more guys. Dylan Sampson, he was a track and field. He broke some track and field records in high school. So I'm interested to see how he does with that stuff. And then a couple of the guys, Brashard Smith, of course, the former wide receiver. I'm curious to see how fast and how explosive he looks. And then finally, I want to see Bashal Tootin. I think he's going to run pretty fast and put some pretty good agility explosion drills.
Yeah. I love the Bashal Tootin reference for there. I think he's great. I know he's going to be a steal in the 4th round. Obviously, I pulled that up. Jaden Blue thinks he's going to break the 4.2. So we have 6 guys that have said they're going to break 4.2, which is absolutely insane. So we'll see if that happens at all. But I mean, that's all good stuff. Yeah. Today's obviously the prolific running back, quarterback, wide receiver. So that's a lot of fun. But we've taken about 35 minutes of your time. Anthony, you want to send any farewell for this beautiful weekend and Combine Day?
Yeah. I don't know what they're feeding these Texas boys, by the way, if we think Isaiah Bond and after Xavier Worthy last year, now Jaden Blue. But enjoy the Combine. Enjoy it, but don't overreact is my advice, one way or the other. Today and tomorrow are going to be fun days for sure.
And then Anthony, where do we find you on social?
Anthony _Russo 97 on X, constantly tweeting all my thoughts. So if you like my thoughts, follow me there.
I personally do. Brian, how about you?
Yeah, kind of same stuff. Just, of course, tweeting about the draft and stuff, Combine, Packers thresholds. If people are curious to know about the Packers and their athletic thresholds. And of course, B Mafia NFL, you can get me there. I'm also writing for Gridiron Heroics. I put couple articles out about the Packers. I did a couple Senior Bowl fits, and then I also did one on the offensive line as far as what the offensive line looks like it's going to be in this next coming year, and then in 2026 they have some free agents coming up and stuff like that. And then of course I am writing for the Cheesehead TV Draft Guide. I'm doing the edge rushers, and then also doing a article about guys that are not going to be Packers due to them not fitting the thresholds and stuff like that.
All right, that's awesome. And then I'm at Randall Slifer. You can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, and I do my podcasting with Draft Professor, and I'm just going to start beginning writing for Team NBS Media, so excited about that. For everybody watching, we appreciate you being here early on a Saturday. We got 95 people watching, getting excited for the Combine today, so we appreciate you all. Please hit that like and subscribe button. For Draft Professors, NFL Fanatic, for all of us podcasting at Randall Slifer, Anthony Russo, and Brian Mafia, we appreciate you and enjoy your day. Thanks so much.